They say your childhood shapes you, but what happens when your childhood breaks you? My story isn't about ghosts or monsters. It's about what happens when the people who were supposed to love you become the scariest part of your life. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe for more chilling stories. Hit the notification bell to stay notified. You don't want to miss what's coming next, so let's continue. I was 3 years old when the world first decided I didn't belong. My first memory wasn't of a toy or a birthday or laughter. It was the sound of my own screams, being torn away from my father's arms. He was crying too, and I didn't understand why. I just remember his hand slipping from mine, and a stranger's arms pulling me away. They said I was being protected, but even then, I could feel something inside me break. But then I was placed with a foster family, my first one. You'd think a child would forget details from that age, but I remember the coldness, the silence, the way the woman looked at me like I was an inconvenience. Once I remember sitting in a bathtub I had accidentally soiled, and no one came to help. They left me there until the water went cold. That's the kind of memory that doesn't fade. It stains. When I turned 4, I was adopted. I thought that meant I'd finally have a family, a mother, but love didn't live in that house. Only control did. My adoptive mother hated me for existing differently. She would slap me for mispronouncing words, for spilling milk, for spelling things wrong. The small, normal mistakes that children make, she turned them into punishments. Her own children, her real children, were treated like gold. They laughed, they played, and they watched me take the blame for things I didn't even do. That's when I learned the difference between being a daughter and being a reminder of something unwanted. But then she died, and I thought, maybe this is the part where things get better. But her husband made sure they didn't. He didn't even last a year before giving me away again. Not because I did anything wrong, but because I was too much trouble. He said he couldn't raise a teenager that wasn't his blood. He didn't even keep his own kids, just walked away from all of us. That's the moment I realized love was something temporary, conditional, and I was always the condition. But then I entered a new world. Foster homes, group homes, institutions. Different faces, same story. Every place had its own rules, its own kind of cruelty. Some foster homes looked picture perfect on the outside, but behind closed doors, I was just another paycheck. Some days they ignored me completely. Other days they reminded me that I wasn't wanted. I was bullied at school. I was too quiet, too awkward, too weird. No one ever asked why I was quiet, because if they did, I might have told them that silence was safer than speaking. By my teenage years, I wasn't scared of monsters anymore. I was scared of mirrors, because the girl in them was disappearing. I didn't know who I was supposed to be. Was I the unwanted child? The mistake? The burden? So I built walls. Anger became my protection, and self-harm became my control. If everyone else could hurt me, then I might as well get there first. But then the one place I thought might be safe, the children's home, became another kind of nightmare. I don't talk much about it, because that's where I lost something I never got back. Someone took away what little power I had left. It wasn't just my body that was hurt. It was my spirit. After that, I didn't feel like a person anymore, just an echo. They said I was difficult, unstable, angry. But what they didn't say was that I had been abandoned by every person who was supposed to care for me, that I had been screaming for help since I was 3 years old, and no one ever listened. So when the doctors told me years later that I had borderline personality disorder, I didn't need them to explain it. It was just a label for something I already knew, that my heart had been broken too many times before it had the chance to grow. But I wasn't evil. I wasn't dangerous. I was just tired. Tired of being left behind. Tired of being too much and never enough. Tired of watching love walk away before I even got to believe in it. But then something shifted. One day, I looked at myself in the mirror and didn't see the victim anymore. I saw a survivor, a woman who had been through everything meant to destroy her, and still breathed through it. I realized that the little girl who was screaming for love was still inside me, and she didn't need anyone else to save her anymore. Healing didn't come all at once. Sometimes it felt like climbing a mountain barefoot. Some nights, I still woke up crying, hearing echoes of the past. But now, instead of hiding from them, I speak them out loud. Like now. Because the only way to silence the ghosts of your past is to let them be heard. My name isn't important. What matters is that I made it out. If you're listening and you've ever felt unwanted, remember this. Surviving isn't weakness, it's rebellion. And if my story reminds you of yours, don't let silence win this time. They always say childhood fears are just imagination, but I've learned that some things you see as a child stay, waiting in the dark for when you're grown. Because when I was 4, I saw something walk across my room, and 40 years later, I realized it never left. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe for more chilling stories. Hit the notification bell to stay notified. You don't want to miss what's coming next. So let's continue. I grew up in a small Romanian town. Quiet, cold, and the kind of place where the night seemed thicker. When I was 4, my mom worked long shifts at a textile mill, so I often slept beside her when she got home. Our room was tiny, just a bed, a small lamp, and an old wardrobe that leaned slightly to one side, its wooden doors creaking like someone whispering. That night, the power had gone out across the neighborhood. The only light came from the moon leaking through the lace curtains. I remember waking up suddenly, no sound, no nightmare, just a strange feeling that someone else was awake too. I rolled onto my side and peeked over the edge of the bed. And that's when I saw it, a small man, no taller than my arm, walking slowly across the wooden floor. His body looked like it was made of something wrong. Not skin, not cloth, just a dark, shifting shape like baked clay or burnt dough. He had little round eyes, glimmering like pins, and thin arms that moved stiffly at his sides. At first, I thought I was dreaming. But then, he looked up at me. And the moment our eyes met, he froze, just like I did. Then his face changed. It stretched into a shocked, terrified expression, almost human. He looked scared of me. For a heartbeat, we just stared at each other. Then he bolted, running straight toward the wardrobe. I watched his little legs scurry, and right before he reached it, he dropped to the floor and slid underneath. I didn't scream. I couldn't. I just shut my eyes and pressed against my mom, whispering that I'd seen a little man. She mumbled something about bad dreams and fell back asleep. But I knew what I saw. The next morning, sunlight spilled into the room, and I gathered enough courage to look. Nothing. No footprints, no sign. Just the wardrobe standing there like a giant, keeping its secrets. I bent down, heart pounding, and peeked under. Only dust and a few buttons. Still, the smell of something burnt lingered. That smell never left. A few nights later, I woke up again. Same time. This time there was tapping. Soft, deliberate taps coming from under the wardrobe. 3 taps. Pause. Then 3 more. I whispered for my mom, but she was deep asleep. I sat there staring, and as I did, something small rolled out. A button, one of my mom's work buttons from the factory. It stopped right by my hand, and I swear I heard a laugh. A small, breathy laugh from beneath the wardrobe. The next morning, the button was gone. Weeks passed, and I convinced myself it was all imagination, until my mom decided to move the wardrobe to clean behind it. When she pulled it away from the wall, her face went pale. There were small handprints smeared in dark soot all along the floorboards, leading behind the wall panel. Tiny, child-sized, but not human. We moved the bed away that night, and I slept in the living room for the first time. That should have been the end of it, but it wasn't. Years later, when I was in my 20s and studying abroad, my mom sold the house to a local family. She passed away not long after. A year later, I received a message through a distant cousin. The new owners wanted to know if we'd ever had strange problems in that bedroom. Their daughter had started waking up around 3 a.m., saying a small man with tiny eyes was trying to crawl out from under the wardrobe. The new family had moved it to another corner of the room, but the tapping followed. When they pulled up the floorboards to inspect, they found something wrapped in old, burnt cloth, a wooden doll, carved crudely in the shape of a man. Its face was burned. Its eyes were missing. They buried it. But the girl still wakes up at 3 a.m., crying that something is standing beside her bed, whispering, "You saw me too." I don't know what that thing was. A ghost? A curse? Or maybe something older. Something that hides, where children's eyes can still see. But sometimes, when I can't sleep, I still hear faint tapping from my closet. 3 taps. Pause. 3 more. And I think about that little man from my childhood, how he looked more scared of me than I was of him. But now that I'm grown, I finally understand why. He wasn't scared of me. He was scared I'd remember him. And now that I have, he knows where to find me again. Thank you for listening. And if you want more true stories like this one, subscribe, because some of the scariest stories aren't fiction. They're just life.